Hello. Yay, we're on. Thank you very much for coming to our BARA event. This is one of a series of seminars and webinars that BARA run. In case you don't know who BARA is, it's the British Automation and Robot Association, and they provide a voice for robot and automation industries when dealing with government, industry, financial, like all trade bodies. Government much prefer talking to a trade body than individual companies. So they only want to talk to one person that represents 1,000 people. Happy days. They haven't got much time and they've got a lot of stuff going on. This is part 2 of talking about efficiencies that automation can offer. The first one was at the Automation UK event back in June. So you can catch up on learnings of that on our website, and we'll move on to today, and I'm just going to get the title correct: How Automation Can Help Drive Out Inefficiencies in Manufacturing Companies. So basically, how you're going to make more for less. Firstly, I'm going to introduce, well, I'm not going to introduce, I'm going to ask our expert panel to introduce themselves, and I'm going to start at the far end with Oliver.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Oliver Selby. I'm head of sales at FANUC UK, and also, as of this time next week, I'll be the incoming chair of BARA.
Hello, my name is George Thompson. I am currently the UK sales manager for Google Linear Tech UK. I am also the outgoing chair of BARA.
They're still speaking, though, it's fine.
I'm Andrew Mason. I'm UK Sales Manager for RAR UK Automation. I'm on the BARA Council.
Good morning. My name is Martin Kidman. I am a BARA Council member and I look after safety, products, systems and services for the Europe Southwest for SICK UK.
Thank you very much. My name is Gail Hunt. I work for Automate UK in various roles. I used to edit their magazine and until last year, and then I'm doing all kinds of interesting stuff with them. So let's move on and talk about the first question, which is: how can organisations foster a continuous improvement culture to identify and address inefficiencies effectively? So, Martin, I see you're closest.
Thanks. Doing lots of safety training with organisations to change a culture, it needs to be the remit of managers. So I think any culture in an organisation needs to be started at the top, and I think you need to embrace feedback from your employees as well. So there's kind of 3 key strategies that you need to do, and it's input, ownership and reward. So input and ownership, so you need to have a culture where you allow people to feed back issues, then you give them ownership so they feel part of it, and then the reward actually completes that cycle, so it continues that culture of the constant feedback and development within an organisation.
Rather than them feeding back and nothing ever happening.
Exactly, and that happens quite a lot. We see this. So when you're visiting site, you see operators complaining about certain things, and then they don't feel comfortable speaking out, and they need a point to do this as well.
Okay, Andrew, what would you like to say on this?
Okay, I would say that, well, similar to what Martin started on, but you've got to invest some time with your people, get their feedback, provide a coach and training. So if you set them on a task, provide some resources, time, budget for them to investigate whichever task you're looking at, and then coach, feedback, and don't demotivate by not give. If they look at a project and it hasn't got any legs in it, that still can be positive because you've considered it, but don't just let it go and kick it into long grass. That's the demotivating factor.
Okay, I mean, that's probably a harder thing to do, isn't it, with resources being tight and not enough people and whatever, but I suppose if they're motivated, then that can take you forward.
Exactly. I think if people are motivated, they're pulling, you'll get more than their allocated hourly week out of them anyway, because they're on that journey.
Sure. Okay, thank you. George?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that any company should do is implement something like a continuous improvement scheme, whether it's Six Sigma or Kaizen or whatever. And you're constantly learning, you're constantly evaluating what you're doing within the organization. And that will identify some key aspects where they can implement automation strategy to make improve the overall efficiency of the company.
Okay, I'm going to leave Oliver because we were talking earlier about it's really hard if you're asked the same question, you're fourth. But Oliver, anything to add?
No, I think it's about confidence, giving people the confidence across the stakeholders within your business to raise their voices and sort of point out those inefficiencies that you can then take action on.
Okay, and do you need to have a trailblazer or someone in the organisation who's really into it, or?
No, I don't think so. I think it's everyone's responsibility, and it's just having that culture that's being driven by the management, as Martin says, and the confidence to raise your voice.
Okay, brilliant. Right, so now we're off on our journey. We're looking now at inefficiency can present itself in many forms, and so where should you start? I mean, this is a tricky one, isn't it? So who shall I start with here? Andrew, I think you wanted to say some stuff about this. Because it can be quite daunting, can't it, to suddenly go, oh.
I think you've got to have some clear objectives. So you've got to identify what improvements you want to have, and then also be realistic to what your potential budgets are. Now, it's tricky to say, I want to automate a whole factory. What's the budget? So you then probably need to engage with trade organisations or integrators to try and find out where you're going to sit in that budget. But when you do, then you can be a bit flexible. I think it's key to be flexible. You can't always achieve everything in one go, and very unlikely to, but you've got to pick out the key, some areas which will give you some benefits, maybe early on, to get some rewards, because then it embraces that culture in the company. So I think you've got to set some clear objectives, set some resources to it, and then look at what's achievable, but not be afraid to be flexible enough to modify your selection, because sometimes maybe buying a standard solution is going to be the most cost effective and less risky as well.
Okay, Oliver.
Yeah, I think it comes down to ambition. You have as a company to obviously push the business and push the business forward to a point where obviously you may need to add automation to increase production, become more efficient, be more productive, and also then building that into a strategy. Having an automation strategy that sits alongside your manufacturing strategy or as part of it, that also then fits into your business strategy, was really important. And if you don't know where necessarily to start, it'd be good to engage with those that are supplying equipment, supplying automation, and also trade bodies like BARA to help support you on your journey to adopt automation. And I think going forward, there will be lots more opportunity, lots more tools available from BARA to ensure that it's a much more risk-free going forward.
I think companies can approach the MTC, can't they? And they can do all kinds of work. And the Manufacturing Technology Centre in Coventry, that I think everyone thinks it's just for massive businesses that are doing amazing things. And actually, they can help any company of any size, can't they, on this? And that's an independent voice. So you're not just going to be flogged a FANUC robot because Oliver flogs FANUC robots, you know? Other robots are available. George, what would you like to say about this?
I think I agree with everything that's been said so far, obviously, but it's also looking for the quick wins, especially if you're just starting out. The automation that you're looking for may not be a robot solution. It could be a label applicator. It could be a power conveyor. It could be a stretch wrapper, a semi-automated one. It's about taking those initial steps, getting the confidence, building the confidence, and then taking it the next step.
Okay, sorry, Martin.
No, that's okay. I think if you want to monitor the success of anything that you do in automation, I think you need to have a datum point. So for me, the most important thing really is to know where you're going. You need to know where you are. and it's about gaining the status quo of the organisation. So what is your throughput? What are your efficiencies? What data are you receiving from the machines? And it's about understanding your current business before planning to automate instead of just jumping in with 2 feet.
Okay, because automation is a journey, isn't it? It's not a, you know.
I use
like
this,
Strictly.
I use this at every speech that I do. It's stolen from a safety manual, but automation is a journey down a path of diminishing return, and it's about really looking at the big wins first and then knowing when you can move on to something else, I think.
And maybe starting small with easy. You know, there's a reason why some things are harder to automate, so don't go with that first. Go with some of the easier, maybe a palletizer, maybe a whatever, you know, to get you going. Yeah? Okay.
It's about the right level of automation at the right time.
Yeah. Okay. So how can system integrators or robot suppliers help manufacturers to create a case for investment? So how can you do that? Andrew. Come on, Andrew.
The question was, I was talking to Martin. The question was, how can we help you? How can the system integrate?
Yeah, how can you help people invest?
Well,
how can they pitch? How can they pitch automation to the financial director and the managing director, the guys who are going to write the check?
Okay. So in many projects, when we're talking to potential customers, we'll be talking normally at an engineering level, and so we, as the sales, the integrators, the automators, we've got to pitch our product to them, and then they will need to pitch it to their senior management invariably. So we've got to either we've got to get into the top level, or we've got to do a good coaching job. That's the key. But the value of the integrators and suppliers is that there's nothing new under the sun generally. I know there's new technology, but people have always want other people who have been on this journey before, and so the integrators, the suppliers, have got a wealth of experience of what worked elsewhere, and maybe your application may only be 75% of what's been done before, but it's a good 75%, so it's a good place to start. So I think you've got to use the experience of the suppliers and also engage in a partnership with them, because it's in their interest to sell to you naturally, but it's in your interest to adopt the equipment, and we want to be it needs to be a partnership, because generally suppliers will be quite transparent. You can check them out from their case studies. They can provide simulations, proof of concepts. So it's not a risk always to jump in the deep end, because it's been done before. So I'd engage with them, and then actually let them pitch to your senior managers as well.
Okay, talking about questions that manufacturers should ask of people, let's talk about ROI calculations, demonstrating cost savings and payback periods. I know this is something Oliver likes to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll always try and guide people down a path of looking at what the total value of an automation system actually provides a business. And if you think about any piece of equipment, there's additional costs that you must be aware of at the point when you purchased it, sort of over and above just the purchase price and what the value of that piece of equipment will be to the business. There's obviously the lifetime maintenance cost, there's the training cost, there's the energy, the maintenance costs, the training, as I mentioned. So looking at the total cost is really, really important. But what it does, it guides you down a road of looking at the total cost of ownership of a piece of equipment rather than just the return on investment. In the UK, unfortunately, we have kind of a guide from our financial people that it must be within 1, 2 or 3 year kind of payback periods for that piece of equipment. I mean, generally we'll just look at what actually is being produced by that piece of equipment, or the savings it's making a business, to actually weigh up what the return on the investment will be. If we look at the total cost of ownership of a piece of equipment, certainly in food and beverage, it's for a lot longer that you can actually pay a piece of equipment off if it's producing that product or packaging those boxes for a long longer time. If we look at the total cost over the course of a project, for example, you're a subcontract manufacturer producing a foodstuff for a supermarket, you might have a contract for maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Well, why not let the automation pay off over that period also, rather than trying to get it to pay off over 1 or 2 years? Having a longer payback period, or looking at the total cost of ownership, gives those producers a much better chance of actually automating with the right type of equipment, rather than kind of hindering themselves with a financial constraint that actually is only being set by a financial person. Look at the longer term.
Okay, thank you. Martin?
I think Oliver's covered it perfectly well there, so I'd just be adding gibberish. I think the main thing is, as you said, looking at your KPIs and being clear at the beginning and setting expectations out. And again, I go back to status quo. There's lots of solutions, dashboards, sensors that you can use to look at payback.
Okay, Andrew.
So Oliver mentions you've got to look at the total cost, but then don't forget the total benefits. People always look at the labour savings they're possibly making, but look at your throughput, your efficiency of throughput, so it's not peaking. The automation system will give you consistency, but look at the softer applications. You may have a more motivated workforce because they've got modern equipment that they're working with, so they're upskilling your workforce by using latest technology. So another benefit may be that you don't have to recruit that person because they haven't left. Recruitment costs. There are lots of different softer benefits which are not considered because they only look at the hard line. And I think if you're going to your FD to get the approval, you've got to bring those into the equation because it helps bring down that payback period then.
Can it also be a way of attracting younger people into manufacturing, which of course is proving pretty difficult to do?
I think you raise a really good point there, actually. And we see a lot of gamification in manufacturing. So with new maintenance techniques, we have augmented reality, virtual reality, and I think this really adds creativity. So even though people say we're taking all of people's jobs, I think we're giving them more creative roles, and it's becoming more interesting, especially for the younger people with this new technology as well.
Brilliant, yeah. No one should be lifting boxes for 8 hours a day in 2024, should they?
I think that's actually a very good point. A lot of times something that's overlooked when they're considering return on investment is the health and safety benefits. That is why we do what we do. It is to remove the dull, the dirty, and the dangerous from everyday applications. Automation should also be considered as a way of improving the health and safety within any company.
Okay, thank you. Right. This is slightly more controversial. Is there a risk of over-automating? I know this is going to be tough for you to talk about.
Yes and no. I think the biggest danger is trying to run too fast. So again, especially if you're a smaller company and you're looking to make that first step, do the quick win. It doesn't have to be a multi-million-pound solution. We would like it if it would be, but it doesn't have to be. It's what suits your business. That's the most important thing. But keep it in the back of your mind. You have to have an overall strategy for how you're going to evolve things in the future. If there's a lot of learnings that each industry sector can learn from each other. So, for example, in automotive, when they're looking at a new car, the first thing they do is, how can we automate this? Whereas in the food and drink industry, it's how many people do I have to throw at it? It's a completely different mindset.
Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the question about what challenges should you think about when you're trying to automate. And I don't think you can over-automate, but some people think you can. But as automation becomes more complex, you have to be wary, and we've seen this in the microchip shortage, especially as a supplier, that if you throw all your eggs in one basket, so you have a single source of supply on complex systems, that can be a risk. And the more you automate, when these things fail, and they do fail, it can completely stop production. So you need to think about redundancy. And also training and maintenance as well, you have to consider this. So my mother and father brought a brand new alarm system, and I was the only one that could set it up. And every time I went for my tea on a Sunday, they would, while you're here, can you set the alarm system up? And the same with the VHS timer when you wanted to record it when you went out. So I think when you have these complex automation systems, you need to think about how are we going to quickly and efficiently maintain these, and if there's an error, how do we quickly get it back up and running again? So think about stock, think about redundancy, and think about training internally as well, and not leaving Eric in IT in charge of everything, because he might go off sick.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. Okay, so let's think about how a manufacturer would start, because we've all been talking about system integrators, and they're like these, system integrators, they're great people, but where do you actually go and find a system integrator to start your journey, Oliver?
The simple answer there is Google. They can provide answers to most things. But going forward, what will come...
Reliable answer.
Okay.
Reliable answer.
What will come from BARA on the website very shortly is a list of audited integrators working as members of BARA to provide automation into the UK. It's maybe a couple of months off before that list is fully populated, but that list will come. Sort of one of the real values we want to obviously provide as a trade organisation is not only to the members themselves, but to the wider stakeholders that can actually benefit from the trade organisation. By having an audited list of integrators, you know that someone's done their homework on these companies, done the due diligence on them for you, and that gives, or hopefully gives you a lot more confidence in being able to engage with them in the first instance, but also knowing that actually someone else has actually given a thumbs up, a bit of a trust advisor.
It's better than TripAdvisor.
Exactly, yeah, so that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's coming soon. So, again, BARA completely independent, so, worth contacting. Martin?
Yeah, so I always like to draw examples from real life. So when I did an extension on my house, I used the builder that my brother used on his house because I saw an example of the work. He was trusted, and he wasn't the cheapest. So even the guy that turned up with the gold tooth and quoted half the price, it wasn't the cheapest on the market. And it's about really trust with this partner, and you'd be looking for things like reliable lists, accreditation, examples, how do they train their employees, case studies, because you need to trust in these guys, because when things go wrong, you need the integrators to stand up, and you need them not to stick their head in the sand and support you. And actually, in adversity, it strengthens the bond with these integrators. So it's kind of a once bitten, twice shy. It's a difficult topic, but with the new BARA integrator program, I think that'll go a long way to help.
Okay, and also a resource for everybody, isn't it? Everyone can go on the website, find out all the information, ring the Automate UK office. They're there to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it should be a really valuable resource going forward into the future.
Okay, brilliant. Right, so when you found your system automator from the BARA website, that's another advert there. How do they start? How do you start the conversation with them? How do you set out what you think you're looking for?
Well, if you don't understand what questions you need to ask, the first tip that I normally give people is write a job specification. Treat it like an employee. So write what you need it to do. Give it some initial KPIs. It'll be wrong, but it's a starting point. And it's surprising how much information that we can gain from what you have written as a job specification for the automation. Keep it simple.
Okay. Andrew?
I'd say just engage with the industry, BARA or suppliers. Use their experience. They're free. A sales guy will come and visit you for nothing. There's no cost to you. You then interrogate him or interview him if you wish. It could be a two-way street, this. Ask him what they've done before. How does it fit with what they're looking to do? See if there's a match. The key for the sales team is that they want to be able to offer their solution, but if it doesn't match what you need, they're going to say so, because they don't want to waste their time any more than you want to waste your time. So I just say engage with the industry. Obviously, come to trade shows. As you know, you're obviously converted already because you're here. Engage with BARA, talk to the industry, do your homework effectively, check for referrals. Then if you're going down that road and you want accreditation, obviously the BARA accreditation system, but you can ask the supplier for referrals. You know, if they've got good installations, they won't be frightened to give you people who will talk to you, or maybe a site visit to see the system in place.
Thank you. Oliver?
I think I can probably add to that in that the majority of UK integrators will have sales guys that are using a consultative approach.
Yeah.
So you use them salespeople as consultants. Yeah. Like Andrew says, they're effectively a free of charge resource in their first visit. Of course they are. But engage with them, let them see the line, understand from them what they see as the low hanging fruit to try and automate first. But don't also be scared when they come back and say, actually, we think that a larger solution or a more rounded, encompassing solution that includes this and this, don't be scared that they come back with that, because that may fit your strategy also. But it's just that someone else has seen the bigger picture as a consultant on that first instance.
Okay, Martin.
Yeah, it's quite nice because we have Andrew, so maybe we can all interview Andrew. And the first thing I'd be asking is about competence, because these guys are coming in and playing with your toys. They're coming into your factory, they're changing things, they're trying to improve things, and I think what you don't want them to do is compromise efficiency and compromise safety as well. So you'd be asking things about accreditations, training, and then question them on maybe what they're planning to do, and ask them safety questions and topics. And if the guy doesn't know but goes and finds out internally, you build up trust. But if the guy tries to blag you in front of you, you lose respect straight away. So I think what Andrew said and everything else, but I'd be pushing on competence and making sure that they know what they're talking about.
Okay, I think we talked before about line walks as well are a good thing to do.
By getting an integrator or a solution provider to walk the line with you, one thing that they're going to see is things that you don't. You're there every day. What you think may be a problem might actually be a symptom of something else, but we look at it with a fresh set of eyes, if you like. So what we're doing is we're looking one or two processes upstream or downstream. Is it actually that the cell is being starved, or is it being oversaturated because the next one can't keep up? There's lots of factors that come into play when we're looking at what is the best, what gives you the biggest bang for the buck.
Okay, thank you. Anyone got any questions from the audience, or have they been so brilliant that there's nothing you now don't know about becoming more efficient? Yeah? Excellent. Well, I'll just finish off, I think, with asking about, I think we talked about benchmarking, but knowing how they got the right integrator, because you've got to be brave, haven't you, to sell it internally. You're spending a lot of money, and oh my God, it doesn't work, and everyone, I told you this wouldn't work, and all of that. So, with an integrator, you're talking really about benchmarking was quite important, wasn't it? Martin, you were talking about benchmarking. It was...
Yeah, we spoke at the beginning about KPIs and analytics, and they're really important, but at the end of the day, it's an emotional choice. So I think when you've finished a project and you look back and you think, if I did this again, would I choose the same guys, even though we've had these problems? And if the answer to that is yes, then I think that's your benchmark. And without going into the statistics and the analytics, I think it's an emotional choice.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got anything to add? Yeah, Andrew.
I was just say, Martin mentioned earlier, you got to check it's like his building project. You've got to check the competence of the supplier, and you can do that by, as we said earlier, referrals, benchmarking, maybe get them to do a proof of concept, look at other sites that they've worked at, so you can get the competence there. I think don't always think the cheapest solution is the best solution. Normally the best solution is the best solution, and it's sometimes worth spending that little bit extra to get the right solution for you. That's my takeaway, I think.
I think you touched on something there that's quite important, is making sure that you technically level any quotations you get from competitors, making sure that you're comparing apples and apples and not apples and pears or oranges or something. The amount of times that I've lost a project and you see what was installed and you go, that's not what you asked for. We quoted what you asked for, and what you put in was a third of what you asked for, and you were beating me up on price, but I was giving you what you asked for, and these guys haven't. So again, make sure that it's all technically leveled.
Anything to say, Oliver, finally? No. Okay, well, again, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the show and you find some solutions in these halls as you're walking around. The panel will be sort of loitering probably hopefully not in an alarming way, but a bit afterwards if you want to ask private questions or whatever. Otherwise, they'll probably be on the Automate UK stand, but you can always go to the Automate UK stand if you want any information going forward. We have their technical expert in the audience, and so Laurie can always help you. And again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.